This video has been produced to highlight various safety aspects involved in the construction and maintenance of winter roads. The information presented in this video is intended for general training and information purposes and may not apply to every circumstance. While every effort has been made to ensure the accuracy of the information in this video, it cannot be assumed that all acceptable safety measures are contained in this video or that additional measures may not be required under particular or exceptional circumstances. This video does not relieve persons using it from their responsibilities under the Workplace Safety and Health Act or applicable legislation. The Government of Manitoba and the University of Manitoba assumes no legal responsibility for the completeness or accuracy of the information presented in this video.
Do you know that every year in North America, approximately 400 people lose their lives in vehicles that have gone into the water? And some of those vehicles have broken through the ice.
Individuals involved in construction, operation, and maintenance of winter roads are among the highest at-risk groups for going into the water because they're driving heavy equipment on the ice, and during construction, they're there before the ice roads are certified safe for public use.
Hi, I'm Ted Rankin, and together with Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht from the University of Manitoba, we've produced this video to help save your life. First, you'll learn that an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. And second, we'll teach you to always prepare for the reasonable worst-case scenario. In other words, what if your vehicle does break through the ice? Together with the Province of Manitoba, Department of Transportation and Government Services, we've created a number of real-life demonstrations where people in vehicles have actually broken through the ice and sunk. We're certain that these graphic lessons will be a valuable asset as you prepare to work on the winter road system this season. As we said a moment ago, an ounce of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure. The government has adopted a strategy to move as much of the winter road system as possible off the ice. New bridges have been built and roads redirected in an effort to make the winter road system as safe as possible. However, there will always be some routes that cross frozen water, and if you work in these areas, it's best to know and strictly follow your standard safety protocols.
A recent inquest into the drowning of a winter roads worker produced a report with a number of recommendations. They included that all operators wear life jackets, a never work alone policy, and that all operators be accompanied by escort vehicles, and that there be formal training for all workers involved in the construction and maintenance of winter roads. In response to that report, this safety video constitutes part of the formal training necessary for all construction and maintenance personnel working on the winter road system. First, initial work on the ice is done with lighter vehicles such as snowmobiles. As the ice gets thicker, larger vehicles are gradually introduced. Bombardiers, lighter trucks, and then followed by heavier trucks and graders. It's important to monitor ice thickness, and when using an ice auger, be sure that you use one equipped with proper safety guards in place. The traditional method of drilling and measuring is the standard, although it is slowly giving way to ground-penetrating radar, which is currently being tested. Stick to the designated flooded part of the road. And finally, slow down. Never exceed the posted speed limit of 15 kilometers per hour to reduce the chance of creating an ice wave. This is applicable whether you're building the road or simply using it.
So what happens if your vehicle does break through the ice? Well, before discussing vehicle sinking characteristics, first it's important to understand how the human body responds to immersion in cold water.
Dr. Gordon Giesbrecht of the University of Manitoba has studied human cold physiology for the past 20 years and has recently conducted dozens of vehicle submersion demonstrations that relate to winter road safety.
It's very interesting that many people poorly understand this. They think that even if you're wearing winter clothing, If you fall into ice water, you will become hypothermic within minutes and die. It's very important to understand that you can actually live for quite a while in ice water, and it's important because that means you're less likely to panic if you understand this. And what we tell people is there are basically 3 phases to cold water immersion. The first thing that'll happen is called the cold shock response. We've all experienced this in a shower. When the cold water comes on, you go and you take a gasp, and it's followed by hyperventilation. And it's very important to understand that you just have to get control of your breathing during this first minute or so of cold water immersion. It becomes very difficult to operate if you're gasping, and you're more likely to take in water, and you could drown right then, but you'll be perfectly normothermic. The next thing that happens is called cold incapacitation. And during this phase is anywhere between 2 minutes to 15 minutes. Your muscles and nerves start to get very, very cold, and they don't work very well, so that you actually are less and less able to do physical activity, like getting up out of the ice. In this scenario, if your vehicle has gone through the ice, the major physical activity you have to do is get up onto the ice. It's important to understand that after about 10 to 15 minutes, because you become incapacitated, you'll start to get weaker and weaker, and it's never going to get any better. So if you've not been able to get out onto the ice in 10 or 15 minutes, you need to understand that you need to stop struggling and wait for someone to rescue you.
The third phase in cold water immersion is hypothermia. Now, normally, you will not be in the water long enough to become hypothermic, and you only run the risk if you ignore the Never Work Alone policy.
Now, of course, in this situation, a vehicle should always have an escort vehicle, so you should always have somebody there to help you get out of the water anyway. But if you are by yourself and you can't get out, you should stop struggling and widen the window of opportunity for rescue by just putting your arms on the ice and stop struggling. And if you're really lucky, your arms will actually freeze to the ice, because you'll still go another hour before you become unconscious due to hypothermia.
And now it's time to talk about how vehicles sink. Now, most of the studies on vehicle sinking characteristics have been done with passenger automobiles, but as you're about to see, there's an awfully big difference between your family car and how heavy machinery sinks when it breaks through the ice.
When a passenger vehicle ends up in the water, there's actually quite a bit of time to get out through the window before it sinks. Normally, it will take between 30 and 90 seconds for the water to rise up to the bottom of the side windows. So there's actually quite a bit of time. And we tell people a simple message: seatbelts, children, windows, out. And it's as simple as that. Now, the situation is completely different with pieces of heavy equipment such as a grader or a 5-ton truck. In deep water, the cab of these vehicles will be completely submerged in as little as 2 to 5 seconds. So you simply won't have the luxury of rolling down the window and climbing out. While the cab is filling up with water, it's important to remember not to panic. Control your breathing and try and time it so that you can take one last breath just before the cab completely fills. At that point, you can try to open the door or the window, or better yet, you can use a center punch to break the window and get out quickly. If your vehicle is equipped with an escape hatch, this also provides an excellent way to exit the vehicle.
It's hard to precisely predict how a heavy vehicle like this grader or a 5-ton truck will sink if it breaks through the ice. It depends on a number of factors, like the thickness of the ice, how the ice initially breaks, and of course water depth. But one thing is for certain: whichever way that it sinks, it'll be your reaction that makes the difference in saving your life.
There are many different situations in which a vehicle can break through the ice. In fact, many vehicles partially break through and are momentarily hung up on the ice before they finally completely break through. The problem is you don't know how long that period is. So the best thing is, in that situation, open the door and get out as quickly as possible. If a vehicle completely breaks through in shallow water, 2 things might happen. First of all, it might fall over on the side, in which case it's pretty simple. You just stand up, open the window on the high side of the vehicle, and climb out. A more dangerous situation would be if the vehicle just sinks straight to the bottom, and depending on the water depth, you might find that the ice level is right at the level of the doors and windows, in which case you can't open the door and you can't get through the window because the ice is right against that. In this situation, the only guaranteed way to exit this vehicle is if you had installed an escape hatch in the roof of the cab. By far, the most dangerous situation is if a piece of heavy machinery completely breaks through the ice in deep water. In this case, the cab will be underwater very quickly, and you will not be able to open the doors or the windows until the cab is virtually completely full of water. It's important to know that when heavy machinery sinks quickly, the rapid increase in water pressure on the outside can sometimes actually implode the windshield right onto the lap of the driver. In this case, the cab will fill instantly with water and you will have to move very quickly to escape. With the windshield gone, you have a very large opening to escape through, except you will have to work around the windshield, which is in your lap. You can still use a center punch to break the side window, but again, if your vehicle is equipped with an escape hatch, that will provide the best way to get out.
Now that you're out of the vehicle, you're going to have to get to the surface, which, depending on the depth, may require a swim up. Your ascent and survival on the surface will be increased with flotation. However, there are popular misconceptions that a flotation suit will impede your ability to escape the vehicle. An earlier summer experiment was conducted to determine the effects of wearing flotation when escaping from a submerged vehicle. After the experiment, the candidates were clear about the results.
So you guys all were pushed to the ceiling?
Yeah.
But did it prevent you from getting out?
It was controllable.
Yeah. It was a trade-off between flotation and staying warm when you get out.
So if you, knowing what it's like to be in this vehicle, if you were out working on winter roads and knowing that when you would need this, your vehicle will have been under cold water, would you wear these suits or not?
Yes. Yeah. Take any thermal protection possible.
So this is not a liability to have this suit on?
No. No.
Just because you're on the surface doesn't necessarily mean that you're home free. You still have to get out of the water. And although time is on your side, the cold water will have a dramatic effect on you, and one that you're going to have to get control of very quickly.
Once you get to the surface, you will be going through the cold shock response. You'll be gasping and breathing heavy. And what you want to do is just take the first 20 to 30 seconds and just get your breathing under control. Don't panic. Try to relax. Of course, it's cold and it'll feel terrible, but you need to get your breathing under control. Once your breathing is under control, now you can start thinking of how do I get out of this ice hole? And you want to have your arms on the edge of the ice, and normally people will try to just push themselves straight up and get up onto the ice like that. And that's very difficult because you're lifting up your body. What you want to do is kick your feet in a flutter kick so that your body becomes horizontal at the surface of the water. And then you want to kick and pull. Keep kicking and pull yourself up on the ice like a beached whale, and just keep going and getting up on the ice. And once you're up there, you want to roll away from the ice for 5 to 10 feet, and then you can get up and walk away. So you don't want to stand up right near the edge because you might break through and fall in again. We always talk about preparation, and one thing that everyone should have is a set of ice picks. And they should be in the suit at a place where it's easy to get to. You could put them in your hip pockets, but of course if you're in the water that might be difficult to get to. So if there is a pocket on the arms of your jacket, that's where you want to put them, because your arms will be on the ice and it'll be easier to grab them. But wherever the ice picks are, you should know where they are, put them in the same place all the time, and actually practice getting at them without looking, because sometimes, especially if it's a hip pocket, you won't be able to look in there because it'll be underwater.
An escort vehicle is essential when working on ice roads. If you're the operator of the escort vehicle and your escort goes through the ice, your goal is to reach the victim without endangering yourself by getting too close to the open water. That means staying away 10 to 15 feet, and the only practical way is with a rope.
At minimum, you want to have a dedicated rescue rope inside the escort vehicle. And when you prepare to throw it, you do not want to coil it around your hand because it might tangle. Instead, you want to alternately fold the rope on either side of the hand like this until you have enough rope to reach the driver who's in the water. Get yourself some extra slack, take your time, aim, and throw the rope to the driver. The problem with throwing a rope with a bare end is that when a person is very cold, they cannot hold on to the rope. What you can do though, if this is what you have, is you can instruct the victim to wrap the rope around his arm so that then when you pull on it, there is some friction. But the best way to do this, if you just have a rope by itself, is to tie a loop on the end of the rope. So what you can do is get a loop at the end like this and just tie a simple overhand knot or a figure-8 knot like this. And now you have a loop that you can throw to the victim. And again, fold the rope on either side of the hand until you have enough to throw. Get yourself some slack, take your time, aim, and throw it to the victim. Once you've thrown the loop to the victim, you can instruct him to do one of two things. The first thing is you could ask him to put the loop over his head and under his arms, and that's the most secure way to pull him out. And again, instruct him to kick his feet and pull as you're trying to get him out of the water. The second thing you can ask him to do is take the loop and put it in his left elbow and take his right hand and push his left hand against his chest. This will provide quite a bit of stability as you try to pull him out of the water. However, the best rescue equipment you can have is a dedicated rope and rescue sling. Every escort vehicle should be equipped with a dedicated rescue rope and rescue sling, and it should be placed inside the cab in a readily accessible spot.
If you're a government employee, a proper rescue device is required. And even if you're not a government employee, this specially designed rescue tool will provide the best method to get a victim out of the water. Over the past few minutes, you've seen for yourself just what it takes to safely operate your vehicle on the ice. It starts with prevention to reduce the risk of breaking through. Monitor ice thickness and, as it permits, only then move up to heavier equipment. Stay on the designated flood areas and drive within the allowable speed limit. Preparation also plays a very big part when it comes to safety on the ice. Carry the required gear, like a center punch, and make sure that it's easily accessible and that you know how to use it. Consider an escape hatch. When traveling on ice, wear thermal protective flotation equipment, but don't wear your seatbelt. And when you're working on ice, always travel with an escort. Understand just what it takes to escape from your vehicle, whichever way it ends up in the water. Do not panic. Get your breathing under control, know self-rescue techniques, and be prepared with the proper gear in case you ever have to rescue someone else. You cannot totally eliminate the risks associated with working on ice roads, but if you know and follow the simple steps presented in this program, you can significantly reduce them.
And as my associate, Dr. Giesbrecht, says, keep cool, but don't freeze.